You walk into a stadium on a Saturday, thousands of strangers around you, all staring at the same spot, feeling like part of something bigger. You bought a ticket, sat down, simple. Now imagine building that stadium, minus trucks, minus cranes, minus a single metal tool. Instead, you're hauling 20-ton stone pillars across a hillside with rope and raw muscle, thousands of years before anyone plants a seed. So why would people with nowhere to sleep stop everything to build something like this? This is Göbekli Tepe, a hill in southeastern Turkey that archaeologists almost walked past twice. Local sheep farmers had crossed it for decades, using one broken stone tip as a scratching post for their flock. Here's what most people get wrong about this. They assume temples and monuments came after humans figured out farming. Göbekli Tepe doesn't just challenge that order, it breaks it. Somewhere in this dirt is proof people built something monumental before permanent homes, before pottery, before the wheel. So what were they building, and why? In 1994, German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt climbed this hill and noticed stones sticking out of the ground that didn't look natural. He was right. Underneath was a ring of massive pillars, some over 16 feet tall, carved with foxes, vultures, scorpions, and wild boar. Radiocarbon dating placed construction at roughly 9,600 BCE, over 11,000 years old, older than Stonehenge by 6,000 years, older than Giza's pyramids by nearly 7,000. Here's the layer most people miss. These pillars weren't a side project for farmers with spare time after harvest. There was no harvest yet. Agriculture, planting crops on purpose, staying put to tend them, hadn't been invented. The people who quarried, carved, and dragged these stones were hunter-gatherers who moved with the seasons and had no permanent shelter. Somehow, a mobile society organized enough labor to move stones the weight of a small truck, using nothing but rope, timber, and coordinated muscle. The kind of workout no gym membership will get you. And not once. For centuries. Why a group with nowhere to sleep would prioritize this over just staying alive gets stranger the closer you look. For decades, the story was simple. A temple people visited for ritual, then left. Pure religion, no daily life attached. But then something changed. In 2011, archaeologist Ted Banning at the University of Toronto published research pointing at something inconvenient. Flint tools, food waste, and debris scattered right among the sacred pillars. The kind of mess you'd expect from people actually living there, not just visiting for a ceremony. That detail matters more than it sounds. If people ate, slept, and made tools in the same space where they carved sacred animals into 16-foot stone, the line between church and home didn't exist, which honestly sounds exhausting. Worship wasn't a special occasion. It was woven into daily survival. That's an uncomfortable question for the textbooks. If gathering to build something sacred came before farming, maybe farming wasn't what led to religion. Maybe religion, or something like it, is what pushed people to invent farming, just to feed the crowds who kept showing up. But here's where it gets strange. Around 8,000 BCE, after centuries of use, the builders did something nobody expected. They buried the pillars. On purpose. Not collapse. Not erosion. Not some later culture dumping trash on an old ruin. Excavation records from Klaus Schmidt's team at the German Archaeological Institute show the enclosures were deliberately filled in by hand. Tons of rubble, broken tools, and animal bone packed around stones that had taken generations to build. Imagine spending your whole life and your parents' whole lives hauling these stones into place. Then filling the whole thing back in with dirt, the Neolithic equivalent of deleting the file right before you present it. Nobody knows exactly why. Some think it was ritual closure, retiring a sacred space once its purpose was served. The way some cultures deconsecrate a building instead of abandoning it. Others think each generation buried the old enclosure and raised a new one beside it, so the site kept getting reborn. Either way, the burial is why Göbekli Tepe survived. Sealed under thousands of years of packed earth, the pillars stayed frozen exactly as their builders left them, until a farmer's plow snagged on stone that shouldn't have been that close to the surface. Here's the part that's still true today. You don't need permanent walls, a farm, or comfort to feel the pull to build something bigger than yourself, alongside other people. That's the same instinct that fills a stadium on a Saturday. Even though nobody in the stands gets a harvest out of it, Göbekli Tepe suggests that pull came first before agriculture. before villages, before almost everything you'd call civilization. The urge to gather, to build, to carve meaning into stone alongside strangers might be one of the oldest things about you. Older than farming, older than permanent homes. So the next ancient city that shouldn't exist by the old timeline turns out to be proof the timeline was wrong. There's a video coming on what happened to places like this once they got buried and forgotten. What do you think pushed hunter-gatherers to build something like this before they even had permanent homes? Drop your theory below. And if this scratches an itch for you, hit subscribe. More of this is coming.